By June 1944, the Allied forces were poised to invade Normandy in a massive coastal assault. Among them was 19-year-old Army Private Franklin Denius of the 30th Infantry Division. His battalion was temporarily assigned to support the 29th Division.
You could see many casualties had occurred at Omaha Beach. The cliffs that you had to climb were at least 100 to 150 feet. Of course, they looked to more height than that as you were on the beach.
Frank was a forward observer in the 230th Field Artillery Battalion.
Forward observer is just what it's named for. He observes German infantry and tanks, and he directs artillery fire in support of his own infantry.
Within a short distance after coming ashore on Omaha Beach, the Americans encountered the hedgerows, the famous hedgerows of Normandy, which are mounds of dirt around the farmers' fields from 6 to 10 feet high, covered with vegetation, the natural fortresses for the defender.
The fighting through the hedgerows was slow going until the Allies' Operation Cobra punched through enemy lines. In the fighting that ensued around St. Lo, Frank got his first observation under fire.
We were unable to see where the German infantry and tanks were from our vantage point, then vantage point, and the only way we could do it would be to crawl out ahead of the infantry by some 25 yards. On the way out there, a machine gun burst hit the lieutenant and killed him. So my radio sergeant and I crawled back a few yards to get out of that line of fire from the German machine gun, and then I looked over through my binoculars and over a little hedgerow and spotted the Germans and was able to direct a lot of artillery fire into that position.
For his actions during the Battle of St. Lo, Private Denius was awarded the Silver Star. Next, the 30th participated in the recapture of the strategically important town of Tessie-sur-Vire. After a few days' rest, they were ordered to move quickly to the town of Mortagne to take over positions from the 1st Infantry Division on the highest ground in the area, a hill called 314.
We went into position there Sunday afternoon, and it had been a very quiet sector. In the 1st Infantry Division, GIs told us, hey, we haven't seen any fighting here, so you'll have a quiet time.
The Americans who thought that the area around Hill 314 would be a quiet place were mistaken. They did not know that Hitler was planning a secret counterattack. The Germans called it Operation Lüttich, which would be aimed directly at Hill 314, intended to divide the American forces.
About 3:30 that afternoon, we heard a lot of trucks and armor, meaning tanks, move into the area, and the Germans didn't know we were there. We waited a while, and then when they came in, we took artillery and knocked them all out.
Not only did the Germans now know their position, but the rapid deployment of the 30th had not allowed them ample time to resupply and set up to defend Hill 314.
That night, about 70,000 Germans, including over 4 Panzer divisions, hit the 30th Infantry Division. The battalion was suffering a pretty good number of casualties. They had killed some and captured a battalion command post.
After the German onslaught, the roughly 700 GIs on Hill 314 found themselves not only surrounded, but cut off from all food, water, ammunition, and medical supplies, with only radio communications.
After the Allies learned about Operation Lüttich, they understood the importance of Mortagne and Hill 314, and Eisenhower himself, the Supreme Commander, gave the order that they were to be held at all costs.
The first that morning was sort of foggy, as I recall, but when it cleared off, you could probably see 15 miles all around. We were totally surrounded.
The next afternoon, the Germans attacked again. with a vengeance.
And they were actually rolling grenades into our foxhole. We had some new air-cooled 30 caliber machine guns that the infantry had, and one that was right close to us had jammed. We were firing at Germans with our M1 rifles.
During the attack, Frank's commanding officer was disabled. Frank took command and began directing artillery.
We already preset the artillery, and within a minute we'll have 100 rounds of artillery into that area. We knew that the Germans could monitor our radio, but they didn't need to monitor our radio. They knew after 4 days that we were running out of medicine, had many casualties, and had very little communication.
That evening, the Germans issued an ultimatum: surrender in 4 hours or be annihilated.
You know, it didn't alarm us more than we were already alarmed. The fact that we were not going to surrender was part of the hold at all cost. We had no thought of surrender.
Finally, on the 5th day, a few supplies got through, some from a successful airdrop, and some from a tactic that had never been used in warfare: propaganda shells packed with medical supplies instead of pamphlets and fired into Hill 314.
It didn't satisfy all of our needs, but it did lift the morale of the wounded to be able to get penicillin and morphine.
On August 11th, the 6th day, the tide began to turn.
The Battle of Mortain came to an end because the men on Hill 314 held out against all odds. The Germans were being worn down by the American defense. They had punched into the American lines about 40 miles. They were exposed on each side of those 40 miles and were being progressively attacked by the Americans, the Canadians, and the Poles. They had no alternative but to pull out or face destruction.
The 30th Infantry Division, at 6.5 days, we took up our wounded and marched off of 314.
The men on Hill 314 came to be known as the Lost Battalion. The battle itself was often compared to the Alamo. Over 700 men had marched up the hill. Just over 300 marched down.